Good morning. As Chair of the Elgin County Connectivity Committee, I'd like to welcome everyone to the Elgin County Internet Forum. Earlier this year, Elgin County Council created a committee to address the challenges of bringing high-speed broadband internet to Elgin County's rural areas. This action was directly associated with the Council's strategic priority of growing Elgin through enhancing quality of place. Access to internet that is fast, reliable, and affordable has long been a challenge for residents in rural Ontario. The Connectivity Committee has been hard at work over the past several months, and I'm very excited about the work that is being done. You'll hear a bit more about this work in a few minutes from Vice Chair of the committee, Councillor Giguere. I'm very pleased that we've all been able to come together today to learn about the status of high-speed internet in Elgin County and collectively discuss potential solutions for a made-in solution to internet connectivity. I would now like to call on Warden Dave Mennell to introduce the members of the Connectivity Committee who are present today. Dave?
Thanks, Tom. It's my pleasure to do so. Just wave your hand when I call your name. So Tom Marks is Councillor and Committee Chair. Tom, wave your hand. Dominique Giguere is also a Councillor and Committee Vice Chair. Myself, Dave Mennell, I'm the Warden. Justin Pennings is a community member. I don't think Justin's showing. Joshua Kira is a community member. Mike Andrews, community member. And I should introduce staff as well. They're here. Julie Gagnon is the Chief Administrative Officer. Jim Bunchu, Director of Finance. Al Smith, General Manager of Economic Development. Al Rietzma, Manager of Information and Technology. Cecil Coxon, IT Manager, Township of Malahide. Catherine Thompson, Supervisor of Legislative Services. Carolyn Cron, Legislative Services Coordinator. And Brian Michelli, Library Services. That would be it, Tom.
All right, thank you, Dave. Councillor Giguere, I think you're up.
Thank you, Councillor Marks. Good morning, everyone. I'm Dominique Giguere, County Councillor, Vice Chair of the Connectivity Committee. I really appreciate how everyone is making the time for today's event. It's so important that we break out of our respective silos, come together, share information, and figure out a way to collaborate and move towards a solution fast, soon. So, because it's already been referred to, but the connectivity issues in Elgin are urgent, but they're not new. So if you live in Elgin, you've known all along. And I think the pandemic has just made it even more obvious, more visible, and I hope it has garnered more pressure and I think more willingness to act. So now municipalities alone are not going to solve the issues. It will take a collaborative, multi-partner, multi-government, multi-stakeholder effort. But the best collaborative efforts need someone to take the lead. And that's what we're doing as Elgin County and as the Connectivity Committee. We're taking the lead for a proactive, collaborative, coordinated effort. So the committee, as Councillor Marks referred to, has been moving fast, working hard, and really moving fast and working hard still means doing a lot of homework. And that's mainly what we've been doing in the past couple of months. We have conducted several surveys with our local municipal partners, with the end users, with ISPs. And we've looked into case studies in neighboring municipalities and above and beyond across the country and in other countries. We've attended conferences, we attended a masterclass. So we're really trying to, as quickly as possible, really trying to get to know all of the different aspects of the issue, from technical to financial to social. And the point we're getting at is that now we need conversations to really fine tune every party's understanding of everyone else's reality. So that's today's forum. That's part of this approach. We've organized this to facilitate more listening, more conversations, more learning, and it's all aimed towards a made in Elgin solution. So the agenda today has been designed to do just that. So we have three key components. We will listen to presentations and get a panoramic view of connectivity in Elgin. We will learn about the end user's reality as we receive the results of the end user survey, and we'll hear about their challenges. And then we'll have conversations to explore key questions and potential solutions that we could action together. So welcome again, and thank you so much for being part of this.
I think we have a theme. The ones that have terrible internet at home, we're excited by this and we're looking forward to it. It's the ones that have gone through that frustration understand. And as you can see, we've certainly been busy the last couple of months. We've had 6 meetings today, our internet forum. I can only thank staff. They've worked so hard on this. Now we'll get into the presentation portion of our event. I'm pleased to invite up Carolyn Glasser, General Manager of Information Technology Services at the Thames Valley District School Board, to speak about the school board's observations on broadband in Elgin County. Welcome. Please.
Mr. Chair, I've got to call into Carolyn to see if she's if there's an issue with her connection.
All right. We will start with Chatham Kent. It's a very, okay. Brett Smith, Manager of Broadband Program Delivery at the Ministry of Infrastructure.
We're going to start with Chatham Kent.
That's what I thought. Give me a second here.
Okay, and Mr. Chair, Brett is here now.
Great.
Brett, would you care to start? Bail me out here. And welcome.
He's on mute.
I think you're on mute.
Sorry, folks. That meant when I answered the call to find out if I was here, everybody must have heard me. I'm sorry about that. It's been a while since I've used
welcome.
WebEx, even though I'm setting up WebEx conferences next week. So I see a deck is coming up shortly. Is that right?
Correct, yes.
All right. So a bit of introduction. Many of you probably know Fausto from the Ministry of Infrastructure. I work with Fausto. He's responsible for broadband policy and program delivery. I'm the manager of program delivery. So I'm responsible for a number of the programs and funding initiatives that I'll provide a bit of a status update on today. Just a bit of a summary. The action plan, the Broadband and Cellular Action Plan was released last year, and there's basically 4 conceptual pillars for the delivery of this action plan. The first and the second have already begun. We're delivering projects in Eastern Ontario and in Southwest Ontario. One that I'm sure you're very familiar with, the Southwest Integrated Fiber Technology project, which is providing funding for 17 counties, including Elgin County. The second one is the launch of the Improving Connectivity for Ontario program, which launched on July 9th with 2 intakes and was just recently topped up with an additional $150 million. There's a couple more steps that we need to take, and this gets more into the strategic planning for how we do connectivity infrastructure in Ontario. There was the recent announcement of the $680 million, and presumably there's going to be more investment in this space because we know that there's still a pretty big gap, even with those investments. And we have to think strategically about how do we integrate social and economic development into the way that we plan connectivity infrastructure in Ontario. Next slide. So a quick summary of where we are today. The first one, the SWIFT project. There's a contribution of about $64 million from the federal and provincial governments for this project. Contracts have been executed in 10 of the 17 counties, and the remaining counties will close their RFPs by January 2021. And all projects are supposed to be completed by June 2023. Construction has already started, and we're seeing connections already in the three what we call pilot counties. And we're pretty pleased with the investment that Swift has seen from the private sector so far. They've actually leveraged more than they thought they would, and it means that they can do more investment in areas that that didn't meet the criteria for the program. The second one here is the Eastern Ontario Regional Network. This is a cellular gap project. The focus here is on mobile connectivity, so it's not the same as connecting premises. It's about ensuring that there's broader coverage for cell service. And that project has started. They've just completed their RFP, and they're going through the process of selecting a bidder now to build that infrastructure. That project should be completed by the end of 2024-25. The third one here, and I'll speak a little more in the following slides, is Improving Connectivity for Ontario. This is the competitive application-based program that launched in July. And last here are other initiatives that we'll fund through the remainder of the action plan, as well as the $680 million top-up for broadband infrastructure. One of the projects here has been announced. This is the Matawa Fiber project in Northern Ontario. This is to connect 4 First Nation communities near the Ring of Fire. There's several other projects that are in consideration, and you should see some announcements in the coming weeks and months for those investments. Next slide. A bit of background on ICON program. We worked with the Association of Municipalities of Ontario to design this program. There was a working group that was set up and a lot of conversations about what we need to think about when we design this program so that it's accessible by municipalities and it's accessible all across the province. The first one was a flexible intake period, so municipalities had the time to think about the needs in their communities and to develop partnerships with TSPs and ISPs. So we have the 2 intakes. The one where we're well on our way. The second intake, which is open right now for stage 1 applications. For the first intake, we expect to wrap up contracts in early spring 2021. The second intake, we expect to wrap up contracts around the same time in 2022. The second is accessibility by all TSPs and internet service providers. We're not just funding the Bells and the Kojikos. We're encouraging applications from all across the province from anybody that has the experience to deliver on these projects. Third is we're no longer using the hexagonal mapping layer, which has been a frustration. It's a kind of a 25 square kilometer view of connectivity in the province. But in the past, it's disadvantaged because there might be pockets of underservice in well-served areas, but that means those folks get cut out of the opportunities to leverage government funds. So what we use now is a much more granular data set to determine where there's areas of needs, and we don't have any size limit on our projects. We have some projects that are under $100,000, others that are in the tens of millions. The last here is confirm local support. This is a mandatory criteria for our stage 1. Any project has to have local support from any of the affected local authorities, including upper and lower tier municipalities. Next slide. Overview of the Improving Connectivity for Ontario key dates. For intake 1, we've already passed the first 2 milestones. The next milestone is coming shortly. So anybody that met the minimum criteria for stage 1 were invited to stage 2, and now those are coming up against the December 11th deadline to submit their applications to determine if they've been completed. The real deadline is January 27th, which is when we begin to evaluate the applications to select projects for funding. And we have a scoring criteria that focuses predominantly on project design and value for money. But we also take into account some strategic considerations, including how many anchor institutions are being connected, like libraries and schools. For the second intake, the first deadline is January 8th, and that's when we need the stage 1 applications in. We expect to review those and get back to the applicants kind of in February, March timeframe, so that they can get invited to stage 2 and start building out the details of their application. For any folks seeing this, there's some tools available online. The mapping tool helps you see the connectivity in your communities, and then you can also have a look at the program guidelines there, and contact us anytime if you've got questions at iconprogram@ontario.ca. Next slide. Wanted to provide a quick overview of the federal programs. Back in 2019, there was an announcement of $1.7 billion. This was the first time they said they're going to create the Universal Broadband Fund. And they committed $1 billion for that. We designed our program to match up with the federal program. We intended to be in lockstep, and we were having lots of conversations with them so that we could launch around the same time, and that our program design was very similar to make it easier for applicants to access both. But things slowed down on the federal side. We launched in July, and we thought they were going to launch shortly after us, but there were some issues at a political level and things got delayed. But on November 9th, they launched the UBF with a $750 million top up to that program, as well as an announcement for LEO. There's essentially 4 different streams for UBF. One is rapid response, and applications have to be in by January 15th. There's Indigenous mobile, so any cellular projects have to focus on Indigenous communities. There's large impact or regional projects, and they expect there to be large investments from organizations like the Canadian Infrastructure Bank or other organizations that can help finance those projects. And then there's everything else, and there's $1.05 billion for those projects. The deadline is fast approaching, though. They didn't give a lot of time for applicants to get ready, and we heard that there was a bit of a negative response. But we're trying to work as hard as we can with the federal government so that we can make sure there's alignment between the programs, and we're trying to set up some working groups so that we can make it easier for applicants to access both, and that we can figure out, does our program design meet our expectations for ensuring that people can access government funding when they need to? So that work is underway today. Next slide. Or is that it? I think I may have covered all the bases.
Okay, Brett, thank you very much for that. I wonder if anyone has any questions for Brett. Open for them right now. Don't be shy. Not seeing any. Brett, thank you very much for the information. Very much appreciated. Now we're going, Carolyn, to.
Carolyn Glazer, Thames Valley District.
All right, back to Carolyn from Thames Valley. Good morning, Carolyn. Thank you for joining us, and you're up.
Okay, just let me just fix my monitor here just a little bit. Hold on here. My apologies for the delay in the startup here. But anyways, I'm very pleased to be here. Thanks so much for having me. I'm the General Manager of Information Technology Services at the board. And quite frankly, it's really a pleasure to be here to discuss some of the broadband service observations that we've had in Elgin County. You could go to the next slide, that would be great. So the Thames Valley District School Board is the 4th largest public board in Ontario. We serve an area that covers more than 7,000 square kilometers, so it's quite large. We offer a full range of programs and services to learners across the district. We have 160 elementary and secondary schools, serving approximately 81,000 students, with additional locations servicing alternative education, adult education, and continuing education programs. Our district covers urban, suburban, and rural communities in the counties, obviously, of Elgin, Oxford, and Middlesex, as well as the cities of London, St. Thomas, and Woodstock. As many of you are aware, the province of Ontario required all school boards to offer 2 forms of learning options for students and families for the 2020-2021 school year. In Thames Valley, this included a full remote learning option for both elementary and secondary students, and an in-person learning option for elementary students, and an in-person adapted learning option for secondary students. The in-person adapted learning option for secondary students represents a combination of both in-class and remote learning. Next slide, please. Of the total number of secondary students enrolled in the district, there is 14%, or approximately 3,500 secondary students in Elgin County high schools participating in both full remote and in-person adapted learning. Of the total number of elementary students enrolled in full remote learning in the district, there is 13%, or approximately 1,150 elementary students enrolled in Elgin County public schools. Next slide, please. Generally speaking, we're aware of the following county areas that have experienced very limited broadband coverage. The information that I'm sharing here was gathered from feedback we received from families in our community, as well as field knowledge amongst some of our staff. And I have noted that some of the areas, the challenged areas that I'm identifying here, were also picked up, I think, in the community survey that you undertook. Further field testing would need to be conducted to delineate the specific boundaries of these areas where, due to topography, natural human-made obstructions and/or limited cell tower coverage, the broadband connectivity can be reduced to 1 megabit per second or less. I think we can go to the next one now. Thank you. I'm sure many of you are aware and appreciate the opportunities afforded to families with sufficient broadband services at home. From a school board's perspective, I can advise that these include supporting online synchronous learning. And again, synchronous learning is where the teacher and the students interact with each other at the same time. And asynchronous learning, where the teacher and the students interact with each other at different times. Digital tools such as laptops, tablets, Chromebooks, and smartphones increase students' accesses to online resources and learning platforms, supporting both virtual interactions and promoting digital citizenship. Some of the challenges, though, with insufficient broadband services can limit the online learning experiences for our students. Probably get to that next slide if you don't mind. This is especially true for those participating in remote learning. At Thames Valley, since all secondary students are required to participate in some form of online learning, poor broadband coverage can impact their ability to participate in virtual classrooms and complete assignments at home. Other risks associated with limited broadband services include device vulnerabilities, if security patches and upgrades cannot be downloaded to the computing devices that are being used. I can also share that at this time, I'm aware that we do have 50 families in the county that have requested papered learning packages due to broadband coverage challenges where they live. So I think that concludes my presentation. Again, just on behalf of the board, really appreciate the reach out and the opportunity to share with you some of our observations that we've had. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Carolyn. We certainly appreciate you taking the time and joining us today. I think we're very much aware of the challenges out there, so thank you for your observations and information. We appreciate it. Our next, oh yes, questions, please. Any questions for Carolyn? Take the opportunity now.
You had a slide showing the the areas that were underserviced. Could I see them again? I could take a picture of the slide.
Sure. I think we've got someone working
We'll
that.
just get that. We'll get that loaded for you.
Coming up.
Yeah, it would be great if we could have a copy of those slides for future use if possible.
Yeah, we can send them out.
Certainly, we can send out all of the presentations to participants following the meeting as well.
Okay, that would work for me.
And I have a question as well for Carolyn.
Can you speak up a bit? You're faint. Go ahead.
Okay, it's Bonnie. I'm in West Elgin.
Bonnie.
Yeah, I just wondered, I was noting the list of areas where students had challenges, and I didn't see any, I just wondered how those areas were established, because is it based on a certain number of parents expressing concern, or how did that list get arrived at? Because I know there are people in West Elgin that had challenges. So
Yeah. No, thank you for that, and appreciate that question. I guess the list, I'm going to refer to it as a somewhat ad hoc. It certainly is based on feedback that we have received from our families. And as many of you are probably aware, not only have we been loaning out computer devices to students to support their remote learning opportunities for the school year, we have also been loaning out internet enabled devices for many of our families. And it's through some of that feedback where we've loaned out the internet enabled device and we've had it returned. Just because of very poor cellular coverage, it has not made an impact at all to the students' learning environment at home. So I'm sure there are other areas. This is not meant to be an exclusive list of areas that that maybe are experiencing poor coverage. But this is the areas that we, from a board perspective, are definitely aware of that we've heard from our families.
Tom and Sally, I'd like to ask a
Go ahead, Sally.
yes, Carolyn, the Eva Circe Cote School in Sparta, the tower there, the receiving tower had to be made. I know I used to teach when it was Sparta Public School, but the tower was double in height because of the ridge. So because you know, there isn't very good reception down in this valley or this lower area. I wondered if the school board had ever considered about, now that you've got high speed there at the school, about sharing that receiver or some way of people accessing it, because there are a lot of rural people in the Sparta area that do not have. I was surprised Sparta wasn't on your list of poor reception.
Yeah, thanks for that question. So as a school board, we are not an internet service provider. So we are responsible for supporting and provisioning, you know, broadband service access at all of our schools. We do have some, I'm going to refer to as bleed, but extension of our Wi-Fi into areas just adjacent to our buildings, as it kind of, you know, extends through the concrete walls that we have. Regarding the, you know, the advancement or the improvement in the Sparta area, I mean, that's fantastic to hear. I'm wondering if this service provider that's managing that tower has that opportunity to further extend services. I mean, certainly, you know, the other thing I would offer is that we are looking at an opportunity in Middlesex County. They've reached out to us to see if they could leverage the fiber that comes into our school in one area in that county, if they can piggyback off of that to further extend to one of their municipal site locations. And I did have a reach out from someone at the county with Malahide Township about, oh yes, Cecil, thank you, about something similar to that. So I am really open to those types of opportunities. I just have to balance a little bit of the impact on the board from obviously a financial perspective, because the funds we have are really just to service the schools. But quite frankly, I view this, we're all in this as partners together to improve services to our families. So if there's anything there that there's an opportunity to further explore, I'm certainly open to it.
Hey, Tom, I got a question.
Go ahead.
Thanks. So Carolyn, we operate in Belmont. We are around Crosley Hunter, which is South Dorchester, New Sarum Public. We operate down towards the Sparta area. I get the financial part from the board. So just to recap, you would be open. I, as an ISP, we are mainly wireless. We also do fiber. One of the things that we do is we approach farmers and stuff and say, hey, you got a pretty grain elevator. I'll make you a deal. We give you good free internet. We get to use your elevator to broadcast around the area. So would Thames Valley be open to those kinds of negotiations?
Yeah, I think that's something I'd like to take offline with you just to discuss a little further. The one thing that is also, so I've been in the municipal sector for quite some time, and where I came from, we did a lot of this sharing of, you know, buildings and leasing out rooftops to support cellular coverage. From a school board perspective, we have to be a little bit careful with respect to the view of families and students as it relates to towers. We have had some experience in the past where that hasn't been a comfortable area for some. So I guess what I'm referencing is if there's any request to locate a tower on a school board site, that would require a little bit more of a deep dive. We do not do that today. But as I said, you know, as we all try to work towards improving broadband services in our area, just happy to take a deeper dive on that one with you, just to explore it a little further.
Awesome. Appreciate that.
Just to comment, your tower, Eva Circe Cote School is a very tall one. It had to be made double the height, so it's already very tall in there. So that might be something you can consider.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Further questions? Okay. They were good questions. Looks like there's still some opportunity to. Good. Carolyn, appreciate you taking the time and carry on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Municipality of Chatham Kent, Catherine Fitzgerald.
Okay. Next up, we have Chatham Kent. Who have I got there?
Catherine Fitzgerald.
Catherine Fitzgerald. Welcome and please go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Audio check first. Can you hear me?
Very good.
Good stuff. Thank you. If we can put the slides up, that'd be great. All right, I'll start my, so first of all, my name is Catherine Fitzgerald. I'm the Director of Information Technology and Transformation with the Municipality of Chatham Kent. And first, I'd like to thank you all for inviting me to your forum. I really appreciate the opportunity to hear a little bit about how things are going in an adjacent municipality, but also hopefully share a little bit of our journey as we've gone along at the Municipality of Chatham Kent. Just wait for the slides here. So if we can move to the About Chatham Kent slide. Awesome. So a little bit about Chatham Kent for those who may be less familiar. We are I'm going to speak a little bit to some of the factors that have made some of our journey a little bit perhaps different or more challenging or less challenging than Elgin has experienced. So the Municipality of Chatham Kent, as many of you may know, is a single-tier municipality, and we have a population of 101,000. So that extra 1,647 people has presented some challenges on our fiber investment in Chatham Kent. We're approximately 2,500 square kilometers, which is about 25% larger than Elgin County in terms of overall geography. And our population density is 41.4 per square kilometer. And I was speaking to some of the organizers recently looking for that split between urban and rural, and we're still working on that number for you guys as well. Our average density of underserved premises per kilometer of underserviced road is 4.4. This is actually a little bit better than Elgin. So the lower the number, the more underserved premises per underserved road you have. Elgin their number is 3.4. So we're a little bit better off than Elgin in this particular area. We have 7 primary urban centers, so Chatham being the largest, followed by Wellsburg and the rest, and then 6 secondary urban centers. We have 5 hamlets under 500 population and 101 rural settlement areas under 200. And unlike Elgin, most of our smaller communities do not have fiber. So I understand from our previous discussions that you've been able to service most of your communities. Chatham Kent to date does not have fiber to most of our communities. And in fact, our fiber access, even in some of our primary urban centers, has not been serviced yet. The other thing I want to mention is in our single-tier municipality, we have the primary area of Chatham, but our second largest community is Wallaceburg, and it is been recognized as being the largest freestanding town of its own without its own municipal government. So it presents some unique challenges in terms of advocating for projects and grants and things like that. And that stat is from Dr. Sancton, from now retired, but formerly from Western Ontario University. So it presents some unique political challenges in terms of advocating for our secondary largest community. The population greater than 100,000 has also presented challenges as a single-tier municipality, and that we were not eligible for the Small Communities Fund, which is where a lot of the SWIFT funding came from for many of the communities that participated. Next slide, please. So in terms of supporting high-speed internet in the municipality of Chatham Kent, to date, we've contributed over $750,000 in support of SWIFT from 2015 to 2020. However, even though we were a participant of SWIFT, we were not able to access any of the funding that came under the Small Communities Fund. So as a result, in order to leverage the partnership with SWIFT and continue trying to get fiber in Chatham Kent, we did give a $3.6 million loan, or had a loan agreement with SWIFT in support of the 2021 $11.1 million SWIFT project in rural Chatham Kent. And that particular RFP closes December 11th, 2020. And we're really excited about what that is going to mean, and hopefully mean for all of our communities in Chatham Kent. Next slide, please. So in terms of the support we can provide to internet service providers in Chatham Kent, we have actively provided letters of support for any internet service providers that have contacted us. We know we've got the Federal Universal Broadband project coming up, so we're actively reaching out and trying to connect with ISPs to see if they're interested in projects in our area. We've also implemented in-kind engineering permitting. So this is streamlined and no-cost consent and encroachment permit process for any internet service provider related to fiber. We have a dedicated engineering team to assist with the placement and optimizing of installation. So that's a $400,000 to $500,000 annual commitment from the municipality for this particular dedicated team to help our fiber companies get their installations done quickly and seamlessly. And this includes everything from, sort of assessing where they're looking for permits to proactively arranging site visits for new builds or new areas where the municipality is actively working to try and encourage them to install conduit, or even just sort of anticipate what the potential cost is for the ISP to work in a specific area. We also conduct assessment of municipal locations to support implementation. So we have 110 municipally owned locations, plus 10 water towers and 60 additional communication towers that we work with ISPs to see if there's partnership or opportunities to lease any of these municipal locations. We've also used some of our municipal locations to been a bit creative in terms of using things like clock towers and stuff like that in some of our historical buildings to enable wireless access or tower access for our ISP providers. For municipal and PUC, so our Public Utilities Commission capital projects, we do reach out again to all our ISPs and see if there's opportunity for additional conduit install while we're at it in the rural areas with road grading and side of road projects, trying to see if there's opportunity to get fiber installed as we move into those areas. So trying to strongly get ISPs aware of what capital projects are going on in Chatham Kent to see if there's opportunity. And finally, one of the more interesting ones, we do have the Thames River running through Chatham, and our municipality is pretty much divided in half by the Thames River. And so this has created a pretty significant barrier for some of our internet service providers in getting access to the northern area of Chatham Kent. So we have made a municipal commitment of about $500,000 to support a river crossing for fiber. This river crossing will have multiple conduits that can be used by internet service providers to get across that major barrier for us. And it's pretty exciting, actually. It's being built right now, and did do a little bit of a site visit. It's coming up. It's almost looking like it's close to completion. So in particular, we have been providing some, as a municipality, providing some support for Tech Savvy. And Tech Savvy is an internet service provider that is headquartered in Chatham, Kent. And our council has decided to provide a $6.5 million loan to Tech Savvy to build 5 fiber backbone facilities in rural wards of Chatham, Kent. So this is really an investment by the municipality. The sense is that the grants and the business case is simply not enough. The business case is simply not there. We need to do more to get fiber backbones out to our rural wards. And so we are loaning Tech Savvy $6.5 million to make this investment and really try to accelerate high-speed internet in these areas. Our thought is that this could help us speed up the spread of fiber in our community by 5 to 10 years. This particular agreement does require fiber to the home internet access to homes and businesses along the backbone route. So there are between 100 and 200 residences and businesses along the backbone route that were in the agreement should be served by this particular implementation. It also facilitates further development at the endpoint communities, and that's where the business case for our ISPs really is. So that's what we hope. This will align well with things like SWIFT and future grant opportunities, where we've got the backbone in place, and then we can leverage those SWIFT dollars to feed the communities at the endpoint. It was a joint decision between the municipality and Tech Savvy in terms of where that backbone would be placed, but it's certainly a business decision for them as well. The agreement also includes that it will be open access fiber over time, so as per the agreement. And unfortunately, I can't speak to too many details on that on this agreement, as there is a non-disclosure agreement in place for their commercial interest. And I'll open it there to any questions anyone may have.
Yeah, please go ahead and ask questions. Thank you for that, Catherine.
Hi, Catherine. How are you this morning?
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's Mike, Mr. Chair, if I could.
Certainly.
Catherine, you mentioned that you've opened the opportunity to lay conduit in road projects, sewer projects, et cetera. I'm just interested if any of the ISPs have taken advantage of that. And if they have, is that done by letting that work out to the general contractor? Because there's always issues of having 2 constructors working in a project, which I know is a complication for ISPs. But I wonder if you could tell us, has anyone taken the opportunity to do that, and how was that facilitated?
Yeah, so I'm not an engineer, so I may not be able to speak to exactly how it was done, but I'll try and do my best here. So yes, we have had ISPs take us up on that opportunity, especially in some of our larger capital road projects in our urban centers, actually. So those are the ones that I'm most familiar with. So we had a major road capital project in sort of on the fringe of Chatham in a business district, and several ISPs took up the opportunity to have conduit laid while we were doing that road build. And yes, our general contractor coordinated all of that. We didn't have each ISP come in and lay their own conduit. We did it all. We knew how many conduits we had to lay based on the interest. And I think we actually laid a few extras just for future proofing for ourselves. But yes, they did take us up on that opportunity, and then there was some value for them in that.
Okay, thanks. I would love to know what open access over time means, and as far as time goes, but I think you've already told us that you won't, you're not prepared to tell us that this time.
Unfortunately, I can't. Thank you.
Could you kind of narrow that down for us? Does that mean that, I'm assuming that doesn't mean months. Does that mean years or decades? Could you even give us that much of a hint, I guess?
I can circle back with Catherine and let her know what I can disclose on that one.
Okay. Appreciate that. Last question I have. I'm not trying to monopolize you here, but the river crossing is pretty exciting, pretty fascinating. I know one of the issues that we have here in Elgin is not a Thames River, but we do have a 401, which is also can be pretty challenging for ISPs, especially small ones, to get across. So that's interesting. Has there been anything in Chatham Kent as far as 401 crossings as well, or is it strictly the river at this point in time that you've seen as an obstacle that you're helping to overcome?
Yes. So we have had some challenges crossing the 401 for sure. It took, we do have some municipal facilities located on the south side of the 401, and it was a several year initiative to get the permits and things like that to do it. The river has been the larger challenge to date, and I think part of that focus going north is that we have more population on the north side of the river than we do south of the 401. And also south of the 401, where we have on the west end some of our larger communities like Tilbury and Wheatley that you may be familiar with, are closer to Windsor, so they can be served by our ISPs out of that kind of system. So there isn't as much current pressure to put main backbones under the 401 because we can access it from different directions, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, but certainly it was a lengthy process to try and get anything put under or over the 401. Yeah.
Thank you for the question, Mike. I think, Juice, you had a question? Go ahead.
I actually have never heard of you. I'm in Bridgetown, and actually like your contact information if I could get it. Email to me.
Sorry, your name was?
Jeff Klaus.
Okay, sure. I'll connect with Catherine and get us connected for sure.
Thank you.
Further questions? Duncan, go ahead. You're muted there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, to our friends in Chatham Kent, as I'm sitting on this Zoom or WebEx meeting this morning, I can see Chatham Kent from my window. One of the things that I hope that goes without saying that on both sides of the border, whether it be in Chatham Kent or in Elgin County, that things that benefit residents of the far west of Elgin County by proximity can be a benefit to the far east in Chatham Kent, and certainly in reverse. So I hope that as we move forward with this, that there can be certainly an open dialogue between the two municipalities of projects that are anticipated in close proximity to the border, and certainly given the opportunity maybe to participate to make the project work better, or certainly keeping in mind that there's not a wall between the two of us. It's very, very open, and I think that we have a lot of things to share with each other if we keep the conversation going.
Absolutely. It sounds like you have a beautiful view.
Well, certainly.
Yes, absolutely. I think we do need to factor that in. Our communities like Clearville and Duart are right on that fringe and are absolutely underserved. And there's opportunity for partnership and working with our ISPs that, especially in the wireless area, through towers to service that whole, I guess, southeastern corner for sure.
Further questions for Catherine?
Hey, Tom,
Brad. Yep, go ahead.
Hey, Catherine, on one of your slides, you mentioned about engineering services. Does that mean that Chatham Kent's in-house engineering GIS team are helping with stuff like, say, MTO road access right-of-ways or rail crossings with good old CN Rail?
I will have to connect you to the fiber team on those specific details. Of obviously, they're helping with those permits. I know we're certainly trying to accelerate any municipal permitting, but in terms of coordinating with the MTO and rail crossings, I'd have to get back to you on that.
Okay,
Perhaps, Catherine, you can get me that email address as well.
That's probably one of the biggest problems in Elgin right now is we've only got, well, at least on the east side where I am, we got one provincial highway, Highway 3. MTO is, they're not bad. I've talked to them a bit. Same with CN. They're not bad. We also have one other rail company out here that owns some older rail systems. Again, they're not bad, but they seem to need a higher level of engineering and GIS information than a small guy like myself has the in-house capabilities of doing.
Yep. I can certainly connect you to the lead of our engineering team to see what they can do to help you. If I can get that email address. Connect you both.
That'd be awesome.
No problem.
Thanks, Brad. Further questions? Okay, I'm not seeing any.
Brad,
Well, thank you very much again for the opportunity. Truly appreciate it. Unfortunately, I'm not able to stay for the rest of the forum, but please feel free to share my email address with everyone on the group, and be happy to connect with anyone.
Thank you for dropping in and sharing your information. There's a lot of similarities between Chatham Kent and Elgin, but certainly thank you. Our next presentation is coming from Brad Mousseau from Uplink. Take it away, Brad.
Hey, Tom, sorry about that. I just had to close a door. My guys are trying to work around me. It's so much fun. Okay, so, all right. Yeah, so I'm one of the owners of Uplink Wireless. We are located in Elgin County primarily, of course. So we'll go on to the About Us slide. Next slide, please and thank you. Okay. So basically, we were founded back in 2017 here in Belmont. Our very first tower was actually technically in Malahide, as I had conversations with a colleague the other day. So was our second tower, for that matter. Our third tower was finally in Central Elgin, and so on and so forth. We are locally owned and operated. We are not a bigger companies such as Execulink or Cogeco, where there's boards of directors and everything. So we're very community focused. We were built for one simple reason. Our neighbors needed a solution. When you step 2 feet outside of the boundary that is Belmont, all internet ceases to exist. Belmont's fortunate enough to have 1 gig Rogers. Even that is terrible. The lines were built and laid in the 80s, back when cable wasn't considered an internet option. It was TV. So the copper in the ground is rotting, and it's terrible. We work with local farmers and businesses to build relationships for our tower co-locations. So we have towers with Ferguson's Fancy Beans over on Highbury and Ferguson. We have a tower on Yarmouth Metal Group to service that area. We have towers with other farmers, other businesses, Sundance Balloons up in Middlesex. We recently put a tower up with Deutsch Brothers Ready Mix, which is jar excavation, more in the London area on White Oaks Road. So we really look for synergies between our tower owners and ourselves. Of course, because we are a local business, we support all of our local teams, parades, businesses, churches. We serve 3 churches for free in our area. It's kind of one of our ways of giving back to the community. So far to date, because Uplink is not our only business, we are also an IT MSP. 90% of our revenues from Uplink have been reinvested back into our expansion and bettering our products. We now operate 23 towers in Elgin and Middlesex counties, with 3 more in the works as of right now, with another, I believe it's 8 slated for January to start construction. As of right now, we have over 400 subscribers, another 100 subscribers that we don't count as subscribers because they're tower owners. So, they get a couple free internets or a couple bucks for us to use their location. So really it's closer to 500, projections of 8 to 900 by the end of 2021. That's just on our wireless side, based on the towers that we have right now. That's with no tower expansion. We have wholesale agreements with all the big guys, Rogers, Bell, and Cogeco. So we're very nimble. We can pop up a tower and tap into a feed almost anywhere in the county, which is kind of nice. And we do actually have a presence at 151 Front Street in Toronto, which is one of the biggest cross connects for internet in Canada. Next slide, please. We are a triple play company, so we can go toe to toe with the bigger guys. We offer unlimited high-speed internet via our wireless network right now. We do offer the universal minimum, one of the only wireless providers to do so. So we do offer 50 by 10. We do offer bigger packages as well. For instance, Kettle Creek Conservation Authority, Sundance Balloons, Deutsch Brothers, Yarmouth, they all receive a 75-75 connection. Some of our other businesses have 50 by 50. So we do push the envelope on our wireless. Some of our towers are capable of 500 megs to the premise if we wanted to really push it. We do offer digital TV through a partner. So we've partnered with a IPTV subscriber. That's why we have to have presence at Front Street, so that we can offer home TV to all of our customers. We do have local news. We have PVR capabilities, et cetera, et cetera. And then, of course, we do VoIP as well. So we can port most numbers. We can't do Eastlink because, well, it's Eastlink and I won't even go down that road. All of our packages are unlimited in North America. And of course, we offer enhanced 911 services. Being in the rural area, that's very important. Next slide, please. This is our current tower map. All the little green ones are currently active lit up towers. The gray ones and the blue ones are ones that are currently being built as we speak. So apparently we have 5 towers in production. I miscounted, my apologies. As you can see, we are expanding outwards more and more into Elgin County. Our focus is on Elgin County, of course. That's where we live, that's where we operate. We are planning to head more towards the west and more towards the lake. One of our greatest accomplishments right now is the far bottom gray dot is a 96-foot tower being built at Quay Devin Wineries, which is on the top of Fruit Ridge Line. Once that tower goes online, which should be in the next few days, we'll be able to head south, which is a great accomplishment. Fruit Ridge Line doesn't seem that big when you're driving, but it is the tallest point in at least central Elgin and Malahide. So once that's online, you'll see a lot more towers pop up to the south. Next slide, please. So our plan for Elgin, we are equipped to do fiber. We do fiber and structured cabling for our IT side right now. We do some of it in the ground as well. So we're going to start laying it in the ground on a large scale. So we believe that no one solution is ideal. Fiber is the goal. It's the holy grail of internet. However, there's a lot of areas, as I know you connectivity committee people have seen, it's not very cost effective to go down a 5-kilometer stretch for 7 homes. I could not see a ISP doing that anytime soon. Not unless literally the county said, we will pay you every cent to do so. So we are planning on a hybrid solution. Basically, we are going to be deploying multiple COs across the county. COs are central offices. So instead of a big building like Bell needs, we're going to create little ones that are on poles with boxes. Each co-location or each central office will feed 1 to 2 of our towers nearby. We'll offer fiber to the home to the smaller built up areas. One of my examples that I'm already working on my permits for is New Sarum. New Sarum has Eastlink. They're locked in. They can't get anything else. On a good day, if they're lucky, they can get 8 megs if it even stays up. It goes down at least once to twice a day from what we've been told. So from that, we are going to feed, there's 2 towers in the area. One is New Sarum, the other is at Silverthorne Landscape with fiber. And there's, the next slide will show this in a second. But just north of New Sarum, there's a small stretch of about 5 kilometers called Helka Line. From 74 to Springwater, there's, I think, 7 homes. To run fiber to those 7 homes would be ridiculously expensive. By putting fiber to our 2 towers, we can quickly deploy to Helka Line, and we can also offer up to 100 meg wireless internet with unlimited usage to these customers. So we can deploy faster, quicker, more nimbly than the standard fiber deployments, as well as more cost effectively. From watching the other committee meetings, there's a lot of distaste for wireless. I say that those people need to spend a bit more time looking at the newer technologies. There are whole countries that rely on wireless point to multi-point. Costa Rica being one of them. New wireless technologies that are out there that are widely available in both the licensed and unlicensed bands are actually capable of delivering up to 1 gig up and down within 5 kilometer radiuses. One thing about us is everything is done in-house, meaning we own our own equipment, it's our own staff. We're not using subcontractors, which makes us faster and more nimble and more flexible. There's a lot less bureaucracy, I guess. So if we decide that we want to go down Helka Line for those 7 homes, you know, it's easier for us to say yay or nay. Next slide, please. So this is the example that I was talking about and our overall plan for Elgin. So as you can see, New Sarum is to the left, the blue circle. There's about 100 homes in the area. We're going to be connecting those homes with fiber to the home. We have a tower already there. That tower will then, of course, be upgraded for its speeds. Part of our second plan is to head down Highway 3, hence my questions about MTO, because they're so fun to deal with. Once the once the Silverthorne Tower on the right is upgraded, those 2 towers have a clear line of sight to Helka Line. So that allows us to easily deploy those 7 homes with fast, reliable, cost-effective internet. And again, we're one of the only wireless internet companies in the area that offers a universal minimum of 50/10. Along with the triple play, means that we can offer these people on Helka everything from phone to TV to internet. And because we're local, we have a faster response time. Next slide. So one of the questions for our presentation was, what do we need to expand? Again, back to good old MTO and CN Rail. GIS, survey, engineering support from the county and the local tier, the lower tiers for these things. I can map my fiber runs, I can do my CAD drawings, I can do my GIS stuff until I'm blue in the face. CN Rail and MTO are a little bit bigger beasts than a little guy like me is capable of handling in-house. I can outsource to an engineering firm for 10K. I've already engaged a couple, or the county and lower tiers can help me, and I could take that 10K and deploy fiber 2 kilometers further down the road. So that's kind of what I'm looking for help from the county and the lower tiers is, okay, you guys deal with MTO all the time. You guys deal with CN Rail all the time. Why? Because you guys had to run water under there. You had to do sewage, whatever. So help me out, guys, with what you know. The second thing, of course, is funding. As I said, almost everything we've done so far has been organic and in-house and reinvested. As everybody's problem is time and money, right? Well, the more money we have, the faster we go. The more guys we hire, the more equipment we buy, the faster we go. And lastly is the continued support from our residents. Like I said, we started this company because there was a need for it. We didn't start this company to make billions of dollars. You know, that's basically about it.
All right, Brad. Thank you very much for that, and open the floor for questions for Brad. Is that Grant?
Tom's Grant, yeah.
Go ahead.
Brad, so I'm living down by the lake. my hot and just from and eating. And today, lucky, it's a clear day. My wife's not home. Kids are at school. So things are really working well today for me as far as the internet access. 2 days ago, it was snowing for a day and a half. We had no internet because of obstruction from us to the tower north of Fingal. So when we look at broadband and going to air over these towers, can I expect to still have internet access when it's a rainy or snowy day? Because right now it's a nice clear day, but on a snowy day it does not work.
Even now, Grant, you're breaking up and chopping there quite a bit, buddy. I can tell you that our network has been extremely resilient to weather. We've clustered our towers. We don't push a lot of our boundary limits. We know that within this area, we can do this speed. The network's been up for, coming up 4 years. So we've gone through, like I myself, actually, believe it or not, am one of my own customers. Our primary tower is on our office. My house is 500 feet down the road, and I hook up to it. My kids play Xbox all the time. 3 of them, believe it or not, playing simultaneously, and we can watch Netflix and that without issue. We have several, like I said, businesses that, again, they are able to do everything they need to do throughout the day, whether it's raining, storming, anything. The very odd time will weather affect it. If weather is going to affect the end user, it's because the wind has caught the radio and twisted it, or wherever we put it wasn't the most ideal. We do go out, we do adjust. One of the things we do, because we own our own trench equipment and skid steers, we will actually put in a post 200 feet from the house if need be to get a better line of sight to the towers. So as of right now, to answer your question, we haven't had any weather-related issues on our network that weren't easily addressed within a day and never came back.
Thank you.
There is hope, Grant. I know the frustrations, and it is nice to have a good internet service. Further questions?
Yeah, Brad, just a question from a business point of view. How many customers do you need per kilometer to break even?
For fiber or for wireless?
For fiber. I know the province and the feds think everybody's going to get fiber, but I don't think that's a possibility.
Right, and we're with you on that. We understand that it's not feasible. Like I said, Hulka line is a great example. Really, I haven't done that math. I don't need to do that math. If I'm going to lay fiber, I'm going to put up a tower as well on that fiber. So all of a sudden, my tower can do 5 to 10 kilometers radius for a line of sight. So if I was to bring up 100 homes, every fiber lay we've planned so far, we're targeting at least 100 to 150 homes for that target. And we're trying to stay within 5 kilometers of fiber lay for that. So basically 5 kilometers, about 150 homes would be the answer to your question. If we can do that, we're also putting up towers. We do construct our own towers. So I have no problem dropping a 96 footer on that fiber run so that the guy on the concession south of my fiber run can also have good, reliable internet.
So a tower basically has a circumference of 5 kilometers. What's a tower worth?
For me to put up a 96-foot tower is, if I was to sell it to the end user, is roughly $12K.
I'm sorry?
About $12,000.
$12,000?
Sell it to an end user, yeah.
And it covers circumference of 5 kilometers.
5 kilometers, and it can support 30, 60, 120 subscribers.
Okay.
Easily, without stretching it to the point where we jeopardize service.
Okay. Thank you, Brad.
No problem.
It's Sally.
Go ahead, Sally.
Brad, I was very interested in hearing about the one at K to Van because Main Street Sparta does have Rogers, unless you live too far back from the road, which I do. But I am in the village. I'm on a hill in the village. So you're assuming this Kata Van Tower would reach all the rural areas down around Sparta? Is that my understanding?
The Quaid Event Tower is kind of our biggest relay point, or will be our biggest relay point. So we actually currently sit on the tallest structure in Elgin County, which is Hensel Co-op in Kings Mill. It's 180 feet foot tower grain elevator from Belmont to Kings Mill to Quaid Event. Quaid Event then gets us over the Fruit Ridge hump. That has been probably my biggest hurdle so far with deploying this network. Once that's up and running, we're going to start looking for towers south of Fruit Ridge line to create more spots to get more service. So it's all about what's my next tower feed and making sure that our links between our towers are solid. That's kind of where we're at. But yeah, Fruit Ridge line would easily feed Sparta area. We have a ton of customers just chomping at the bit for that tower to go online.
Okay, and just for your information, the highest point in Elgin County is just across the road from Kata Van.
Further questions for Brad? Duncan?
Hey, Duncan,
You're good, Duncan.
again.
Certainly, I'll start over again. Thank you, Brad, for the good work that you're doing in Elgin County. Just a question that the CRTC has set the level of 5010 for being able to qualify for funding. That's a pretty high bar for wireless, is it not?
Nope.
No, that's easily achieved.
Easily. We have tons of customers on 5010. We have businesses on 7575. Almost any tower in our network will get just shy of 1 gig throughput on it.
Okay.
The 5010 is a bar. You got to remember that most people will never use their entire bandwidth. So like any other ISP provider, we gamble. We say, okay, we know that the tower or the lines or whatever can handle this load. What's the chances of all 100 subscribers, 200 subscribers, 1,000 subscribers maxing out their connections simultaneously? The only guys that are ever going to max out a connection are guys like myself or Cecil, IT guys that, probably have some server thing at home that we probably shouldn't have. So 5010 is easily doable. We do it quite often. I can tell you that most of our subscribers that have kids, online gaming, schooling, pick our 25/5 package. We've invested heavily with a company in Kitchener that allows for traffic prioritization and quality of service. So quite a few $1,000s have been put into some pretty nice servers in our little rack here. So if you're doing a voice call, you get that gets priority over something like a Windows download. Thames Valley District School Board said about critical patches to your operating systems and that. Those things can be pretty heavy. So our servers will say, okay, well, you're doing a Zoom call or you're doing a voice call on VoIP. Those guys take priority over the Windows download because we see where the traffic's going and it self-adjusts itself. So no, 5010 is extremely doable. We have beta technology right now that's been deployed that will easily allow us to give 250 to the home up to 5 kilometers.
Well, it's certainly, I guess I'm just looking to the fact that currently I do not have 5010 service at my place here. I have some days, maybe on a good day, maybe 27, but it's more than significant. It's more than adequate for any of the uses that I have for it. But I'm just thinking that do we have more room to service more people if we don't have to provide that high a service? If we were to say 25 is plenty. Does that give you more room on the top end to be able to distribute your signal and connect to more people, or does it make any difference at all?
again, chances of somebody maxing out that 50-10 connection simultaneously with everybody else, slim to nil. So is 25 a limit? Good. Yep. You're absolutely right. Is it realistic? Yep. 25 is more, as long as the network is built properly, 25 is sufficient for, like you say, most of what you need to do. With it, you know, one of the biggest problems we have with funding is we're little, meaning because I didn't stash all my money in my bank account, I don't have that 1/3 to put in for Swift. What I did is I put all my money into my towers to give better internet to the, I like Juice nodding with me, right? He gets it.
Yeah.
You know, Swift, as far as I'm concerned, Swift is a joke. It is one of the biggest jokes that has ever come along because all it does is feed the big guys like Bell, Kojiko, and Rogers. I love this guy. You know, so that's, you know, lowering it to 25 meg, it's not going to help us. 50-10 is a reasonable. I actually have been doing a lot of homework on this. 100 meg connection is more than anybody would ever need. Again, unless you're guys like Cecil and me and Juice that have servers in our closets downstairs in our basements because we can, because we're IT guys, right? Because we're ISPs. Guys like yourself, Duncan, like Tom, like Sally, you guys don't have servers. You want to watch Netflix. If IPTV isn't available, great. You want to make a call to your kids in BC. You might have a young kid at home that wants to play a video game. The biggest thing for it is latency. ExploreNet is a great example. Their satellite service, if any of you guys have ever had it, it's fast on the speed test. The problem is what they call the latency, the ping. That's the talking back and forth between the internet connectivity. That's what kills you. Our ping anywhere on our network is less than 20 milliseconds. We've built our network to ensure that, so that all your little packets running across the interweave are fast, so that stuff like video chats, stuff like Netflix, stuff like online gaming can be accomplished. Starlink is claiming that right now. That's Starlink's big thing, is we have low latency, which is great. They do. From the beta test, they do. Starlink's problem is going to be congestion.
I'm looking at the clock here. I'm gonna, to keep everyone on time, and we're gonna have to move on, but I certainly appreciate your candor. Lots of things to think about. I appreciate it. I'm looking at the clock. Our next presenter is Grant Ruffley, Vice President of North Frontenac Telephone Company. He's going to speak about their activities in Elgin County. Welcome, Grant.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Well, go ahead.
Okay, I'll just let them get the slides set up. Happy to participate this morning in the committee. I think your initiative is the right idea and what needs to happen at these lower tier levels of government to be able to get much deeper high-speed broadband penetration into these rural areas. So I applaud you guys for the work that you're doing. We work all over the province in rural areas, so it's nice to see the initiatives that you're taking here. As you said, I'm Vice President of North Frontenac Telephone Company. Next slide. North Frontenac Company has a very proud history of over 60 years, actually beyond that, where it was named something different than North Frontenac, but it was incorporated as North Frontenac back in the 1950s. And since then has had a dedicated focus of serving rural communities with telecommunication services. Primarily, originally was in our Silac area, which is in Eastern Ontario, where we developed an understanding probably ahead of most companies with the challenges of serving rural Ontario. Charlotte Lake, our local serving area in Eastern Ontario, is much like Haliburton or Muskoka. It has significant challenges in terms of very low density, very challenging roads and conditions for maintaining a network. So we built our history around the challenges of serving small rural communities, and including how the business plans work for serving small business communities. Our company bought North Frontenac a little over 5 years ago and extended our commitment to rural communities by focusing on an expansion plan in underserved communities around Ontario. In the past 5 years, we've expanded with fiber optic network in over 25 locations through construction and acquisitions. These fiber optic networks ensure that these communities can evolve with the way technology evolves, and continue to meet the what we would say is the ever-growing bandwidth demands of a connected environment. NFTC is an active member in the Independent Telecommunications Providers Association, and we're actively involved in industry-wide efforts to bridge the digital divide between rural and urban areas. Next slide, please. Currently, we're serving approximately 30 Ontario rural communities, and much of this is the expansion that we've done over the last most recent 5 years. Next slide. We offer services including ultra-high-speed internet, digital cable TV, phone, and home security and monitoring. Next slide. One of the things that we're asked to touch on is some specifics around where our coverage is in the Elgin County area. Recently, we've completed the construction of a network that connects the Dutton Dunwich area, Wallacestown, Eagle, out to West Lorne and on to Rodney. And we've basically not had a 3-month period since the construction of those networks, fully interconnected with fiber, that we haven't had some kind of expansion activity from the ends of those fiber runs, most recently just completing a couple of 500-meter expansions out at the edge of Rodney. Next slide, please. In addition to the area of West Elgin that we were just looking at, we have under construction a network coming out of the south end of Tillsonburg, overlapping Norfolk County, but into Elgin County with Eden, Bayham, Vienna, and down into Port Burwell. And that project is scheduled for completion late next year. It did experience some turmoil with the issues with the pandemic that came along, and has had some challenges in terms of when everybody remobilized, the trade contractor availability became an issue, and we've since reallocated our resources so that we can get some people moving back down there within the next 60 or so days. Next slide, please. So one of the questions was the focus of expanding broadband in Elgin County. We look at this from obviously as a private sector company, is that you have to have something that you can feed and water. It's one thing to get it built, but you have to understand how can you maintain that system, and how can you ensure there's a commitment on the part of the operator to own and operate and continue to upgrade and maintain and support the system that you put in place. First and foremost, areas with sufficient density that meet financial pro formas will be funded. And the best example I can give you is investing significantly over $10 million in Elgin County in West Elgin, and building out networks where we could put forward a business plan that made sense from an operating sustainability point of view. It also, where the density is close enough together, it allows you to extend some of those pieces into parts of the rural footprint with lower density, but build on that economy of scale of a series of higher density neighborhoods. The focus from our recommendation, to this committee and to the various tiers of government that we speak to every day, is that you need to focus on a long-term solution that offers adaptability and scalability of the infrastructure throughout these areas. Your primary objective, and I think Brad touched on this, is that you're going to end up with a multi deployment solution, that it's not simply that you need to get fiber down every single road, but I would emphasize to you the importance of focusing on as deep a fiber penetration as you can throughout Elgin County, so that you're positioning yourselves to be future ready. we've seen in the last 24 months, and in particular in the last 10 months, with emphasized by the pandemic, significant uptick in usage profiles of subscribers. And that's not just our company. We compare notes across our association on a regular basis. And we've seen significant upticks. This is before people really start to leverage some of the new technologies that are coming out, but we've already seen an acceleration of what many in the industry have been forecasting for a long time. Part of the objective should be around leveraging existing networks, POIs or point of interconnection, which allows companies to reduce the cost of expanding their footprints, encourage or incentivize network operators to extend their fiber so that they can leverage the existing scale for lower operating costs. It's one thing to get the funding to build fiber out some of these to these more remote areas. It's another thing to own and operate those systems. Where you can extend your system, like we've done through a number of the networks that we've built, you at least have some economy of scale to be able to support and operate and maintain the equipment, as well as upgrade the equipment, which is something that in this industry happens with a fairly significant, a fairly fast pace. Look at it from a perspective of that you want to push your fiber as deep into your community as possible, and ultimately you're going to be looking at that final 3% or 5% as fixed wireless coverage. But if you've got that deep fiber penetration, you're introducing direct fiber connected towers, and Brad touched on this about their evolving strategy around getting fiber to one, possibly two towers with a short serving radius, offering fairly significant bandwidth and reliability of that bandwidth, but also reducing any potential issues with signal shadows or evolution of line of sight. Trees grow, someone builds a building. Those things can interfere with wireless deployment. When you've got those shorter distances and when you've got fiber-fed towers, you've got much more significant capacity for delivering strong bandwidth and reliable bandwidth. Next slide, please. So how to achieve objectives? Work with the existing network operators to expand, so that you can get some efficiencies on the operating costs as well as the capital costs that are needed to invest. Funding is essential to reduce capital costs. As an example, on some recent proposals, and we're actively participating with SWIFT. I understand Brad's frustration with regards to SWIFT, but at the same time, I'm going to disagree with him a little bit. We've been active in a number of the different funding programs at the federal and provincial levels, as well as this combined multi-tier solution that SWIFT is offering. They have an effective program. None of them are perfect, but I can tell you that they have a program that has as widespread appeal as you could offer, and the projects are getting awarded. We have a number of projects awarded to us. Some are underway already, but their ability to distribute beyond the top tier telcos has been proven out through the projects that they've already awarded. But on a recent example, the rural builds, when we compare it with what our target costs are for an urban build, is we're experiencing 3 to 6 times and sometimes higher than that cost on a per sub basis, just on the capital side. The operating side, you see significant increases as well. If you can collaborate on infrastructure placement within road allowances, there's situations where you can reduce the costs of a rural run by as much as 30% when you're trying to place fiber in a cost-effective location versus being forced into an area where there's too much existing utility congestion. Lobby upper tiers of government for funding. That's a recurring theme with everybody. I think we understand that. And another important point that has a significant impact on the ability to run fiber through some of these rural areas in your county and that's more equitable access to existing support structures. And specifically, you're talking about things like aerial plant. So Hydro One, NFTC is an active member of a working committee right now with the provincial government and Hydro One to try and examine ways that we can get a more equitable approach to how we access and what the costs for accessing that type of infrastructure are. But that can have a significant impact in lowering the capital cost of distributing fiber throughout some of these rural areas. Final point, provide cost-effective access to own support structures. So where there are situations and the wireless guys will always emphasize the importance of getting access to existing buildings and structures for wireless deployment, but also where there are communities that have any ownership in utilities or utility infrastructure, the ability to work collaboratively with the telcos and the ISPs to get more secure access. And I would actually refer back to the one slide that Catherine from Chatham Kent had, that they've put together a superb example of some of the initiatives that your local municipality can implement to encourage and help to reduce the costs of these builds. And if you look at the key points that she had, they overlap some of the bullet points that I've put on this slide. And where we've experienced that around the province with the municipalities, I can tell you that it yields very beneficial results in being able to put more fiber into the build. In other words, to get more kilometers of road covered with the build, because you've got a pro forma that works a little bit better and you can stretch your investment dollars that much further. With that, next slide, please. I think that wraps it up, and I'll take any questions.
Questions for Grant? Thank you, Grant. Appreciate it. Not hearing any questions. All right, Grant, certainly appreciate it. And I want to thank all the presenters. We've got a lot of information, and we're going to take a short 10-minute break, and then we'll be back going again in some breakout sessions. I hope everyone can stick around, and again, thank you to all the presenters. A lot of good information, appreciate it. So set your clocks, 10 minutes, we'll come back. Thank you.
Okay, we got a 10-minute break here. Okay. Ready?